A group of casino employees just broke their silence about the slot machines they watched drain player bankrolls day after day. What they're revealing about these 12 specific games could completely change how you approach gambling. And the casino industry definitely doesn't want this information getting out. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which machines have the worst odds, why the programming is designed to keep you losing, and what psychological tricks these games use to keep you playing even when you're down big. Let's jump right into it. Tarzan is manufactured by Aristocrat Gaming, and it's based on the classic jungle hero we all know from movies and books. The game features vine-swinging animations, jungle sounds, and the iconic Tarzan yell that plays during big wins. It looks exciting and adventurous, perfect for casual players looking for some entertainment. But industry insiders who maintain these machines report that Tarzan carries a base game RTP, hovering between 87% and 89%, depending on how the casino has it configured. That's already below what you'd want to see, but the real problem lies in how the bonus features are structured. The primary feature is called the Jungle Jackpots bonus. You need to land 3 scatter symbols to trigger it, and when you do, you're taken to a picking game where you select vines to reveal cash prizes and multipliers. Programming documentation suggests this bonus triggers approximately once every 150 to 180 spins. Do the math on that. If you're playing at $1 per spin, you're investing somewhere between $150 and $180 just to see that bonus feature appear. And when it does show up, technical specs indicate the bonus typically pays between 15 and 40 times your initial bet. Think about what that actually means. You spend $160 in spins waiting for the bonus, and then it pays you $28. You're not coming out ahead. You're bleeding money slowly while the exciting theme and jungle sounds make you feel like you're having an adventure. What makes Tarzan particularly effective at separating players from their money is the near-miss programming. Slot techs who worked on these machines explain that Tarzan is programmed to show you 2 scatter symbols very frequently, making you feel like you're always just 1 symbol away from triggering the bonus. Your brain interprets these near misses as almost winning, which actually triggers the same reward centers as actual wins. So you keep playing, convinced that the bonus is just around the corner, while the machine systematically takes your money. One casino worker recalled a middle-aged couple who came in every Saturday afternoon to play Tarzan together. They loved the theme and thought it was their special game. Over the course of about 14 months, based on their player card tracking data, they put approximately $28,000 through that machine. They won back maybe $23,000 of that. They lost $5,000 over a little more than a year, and they never seemed to realize it because the bonus features would hit just often enough to keep them excited and engaged. Gorilla Chief is another Aristocrat product, and it's been a casino floor staple for years. The game has a jungle theme with various animals, but the main character is obviously the Gorilla Chief himself, who appears during bonus features and big wins. Slot technicians who service these machines report that Gorilla Chief has a base game RTP that can be set as low as 86%, which is frankly terrible, but the machine has remained popular for years, which tells you something about how effective its psychological programming is. The main attraction is the free spins bonus, which triggers when you land 3 or more scatter symbols. When you trigger it, you receive a random number of free spins, typically between 5 and 15. During these free spins, certain symbols can expand to cover entire reels, potentially creating big wins. Here's the problem that casino employees identified. The bonus is programmed to trigger roughly once every 120 to 150 spins, but the free spins you receive rarely produce wins that justify the investment. Programming analysis suggests that about 65% of the time, the free spins bonus pays less than 30 times your bet. So you're spending $135 in base game spins to trigger a bonus that gives you back $22. The math is brutally against you, but the expanding symbols and dramatic gorilla animations make it feel exciting even when you're losing. What casino workers found particularly problematic about Gorilla Chief is something they call the escalation pattern. The game is designed so that your first session usually goes pretty well. You might trigger the bonus a couple times, maybe even hit a decent win, and you walk away feeling good about the machine. But the machine isn't adapting to you specifically. What's actually happening is statistical variance. Some sessions will be luckier than others purely by chance. The problem is that first good session creates an emotional attachment to the machine. Players who had a winning first session on Gorilla Chief would come back repeatedly, convinced it was their lucky game. Casino employees watched this pattern play out hundreds of times. A player would have one good session, then come back for dozens more sessions chasing that same feeling, slowly losing everything they won in that first session and much more. There was one regular, a man in his late 50s, who played Gorilla Chief almost exclusively for nearly 2 years. He'd had a great first experience where he turned $100 into $850 in about 2 hours. That memory anchored him to the machine. Over the next 2 years, player tracking data showed he'd lost approximately $18,000 on Gorilla Chief, chasing the feeling of that first winning session. The machine had successfully created a psychological hook using nothing more than random variance and his own memory. Dragon's Law Twin Fever is manufactured by Konami Gaming, and it's part of their premium video slot lineup. The game features an elaborate Asian theme with dragons, warriors, and traditional symbols. It has 2 separate reel sets displayed side by side, which creates a unique visual experience. Casino insiders who worked with these machines report that Dragon's Law Twin Fever has a base game RTP around 87% to 88%. That's not the worst we'll see on this list, but it's still well below what players should be looking for. The signature feature of this game is the twin reel mechanic. You're essentially playing 2 slot machines simultaneously, and when you trigger the free spins bonus on one set of reels, both sets of reels enter the bonus mode together. This sounds like it doubles your chances of winning, and that's exactly what players think. But casino employees who understood the programming knew better. The twin reel mechanic doesn't actually improve your odds. The RTP is calculated across both reel sets combined. What the twin reels actually do is create more visual stimulation and action. There's more happening on the screen, more symbols spinning, more potential for excitement. But mathematically, you're not getting any better value than you would from a single reel set with the same RTP. The free spins bonus triggers when you land 3 or more bonus symbols on either reel set. Technical documentation suggests this happens approximately once every 100 to 130 spins. When it does trigger, both reel sets go into free spins mode simultaneously, creating a spectacular visual display. The problem is that the free spins rarely deliver wins that justify the buildup. Analysis of the game's behavior suggests that around 70% of free spin bonuses pay less than 40 times your total bet. And remember, with twin reels, your total bet is covering both reel sets, so it's already higher than it would be on a standard single reel game. One aspect of Dragon's Law Twin Fever that casino employees found particularly manipulative is the synchronized near-miss programming. The 2 reel sets are programmed to frequently show bonus symbols in tantalizing positions at the same time. You'll see 2 bonus symbols on the left reel set and 2 bonus symbols on the right reel set, making you feel like you're about to trigger a double bonus feature. This creates an intense sense of anticipation and excitement, even though mathematically, those near misses mean nothing. A casino manager recalled a woman who became completely absorbed by Dragon's Law Twin Fever. She played it 3 to 4 times per week for about 9 months. She was convinced that having 2 real sets gave her better odds, and she loved the visual spectacle of watching both screens simultaneously. Player tracking data revealed that over those 9 months, she'd wagered approximately $41,000 through the machine. She'd won back roughly $35,000. That's a $6,000 loss over 9 months, all because she believed the twin reel mechanic gave her an advantage when it actually didn't change her odds at all. 5. Dragon's Gold is manufactured by Aristocrat, and it's an upgraded version of their extremely popular 5 Dragons slot machine. The game features Chinese-themed symbols, dragons, and traditional iconography. The gold version added enhanced graphics and higher denomination betting options. Slot technicians who maintain these machines report that 5 Dragon's Gold has a base game RTP that can be configured between 86% and 88%. What makes this machine particularly problematic is how the betting structure works in combination with the reel power system. The game allows you to adjust how many reels are active using something called reel power. You can play with anywhere from 1 to 5 reels active, and the more reels you activate, the higher your bet becomes. Most players naturally assume that activating all 5 reels gives them the best chance to win. Here's what Casino Insiders discovered. While activating all 5 reels does technically give you more ways to win, the base game RTP is lower when you're playing with all reels active. The game is programmed so that the optimal RTP actually occurs when you're playing with fewer reels active, which is completely counterintuitive. But almost no player figures this out because it goes against basic gambling logic. Everyone assumes more reels equal more chances to win, so they max out their bet playing with all 5 reels active, unknowingly choosing the configuration with the worst RTP. The main bonus feature is the free spins bonus, which triggers when you land 3 or more scatter symbols. When it triggers, you get to select from 5 different dragons, each representing a different combination of free spins and multipliers. Industry documentation suggests this bonus is programmed to trigger approximately once every 130 to 160 spins. The problem is that the dragon you select doesn't actually matter. The game has already determined what you're going to win before you make your selection. The picking game is pure theater designed to make you feel like you have control, and regardless of which dragon you pick, technical specs indicate that approximately 65% to 70% of the time, the free spins bonus pays less than 35 times your bet. So you're spending potentially $160 in spins to trigger a bonus that pays you $30. Casino employees observed this pattern repeatedly with 5 Dragon's Gold. Players would become convinced that they'd figured out which dragon to pick for the best results. They'd develop superstitions and strategies around their dragon selection, completely unaware that their choice had zero impact on the outcome. One regular player, a man in his early 40s, kept a detailed notebook about his 5 Dragon's Gold sessions. He tracked which dragon he picked, what it paid, what time of day it was, what day of the week it was, and dozens of other variables. He was convinced he could crack the pattern. Over the course of approximately 16 months, he played 5 Dragon's Gold religiously, always with all 5 reels active, because he thought that gave him the best odds. Player tracking data showed that he'd wagered roughly $53,000 through the machine during that time. He won back approximately $44,000, which meant he'd lost $9,000 chasing patterns that didn't exist. His detailed notebook was filled with meaningless correlations, and he never realized that his choice of dragon literally didn't matter, and that playing with all 5 reels active was actually giving him worse odds. Buffalo Gold is manufactured by Aristocrat, and it's part of the Buffalo series, which is one of the most successful slot machine franchises in casino history. The original Buffalo game was beloved by players for years, and Buffalo Gold was marketed as a premium upgrade with better features and bigger win potential. Industry insiders who worked with these machines report that Buffalo Gold has a base game RTP ranging from 85% to 87%, depending on the casino's configuration. That's significantly worse than many players realize, especially considering the game's popularity and the reputation of the Buffalo brand. The main feature is the free spins bonus, which triggers when you land 3 or more scatter symbols. When it triggers, you're awarded a random number of free spins, and during those free spins, gold buffalo symbols can appear on the reels. Each gold buffalo that lands reveals a multiplier that applies to all wins during that free spin. This sounds exciting, and visually, it creates spectacular moments when multiple gold buffalo symbols appear and multiply your wins. But programming analysis reveals that the bonus is structured to trigger approximately once every 140 to 170 spins, and the majority of bonuses pay poorly. Technical documentation suggests that around 60% of free spin bonuses pay less than 40 times your bet, and about 25% pay less than 20 times your bet. So you're frequently spending $155 in base game spins to trigger a bonus that pays you $18. What makes Buffalo Gold particularly effective at extracting money from players is the volatility profile combined with the brand recognition. The original Buffalo game had developed such a loyal following that players automatically trusted Buffalo Gold would be similar. But Buffalo Gold was programmed with much higher volatility. This means longer losing streaks punctuated by occasional bigger wins. Players who were used to the original Buffalo's play pattern found themselves losing money much faster on Buffalo Gold, but they blamed bad luck rather than understanding that the game itself was fundamentally different. Casino employees observed a pattern they called Buffalo migration. Players who had spent years playing the original Buffalo would naturally migrate to Buffalo Gold when they saw it on the casino floor, assuming it was an upgrade. What actually happened is those loyal Buffalo players started losing money faster because Buffalo Gold had worse base game, RTP, and higher volatility, but their emotional attachment to the Buffalo brand kept them playing, convinced their luck would turn around. There was one woman, a retiree in her late 60s, who had played the original Buffalo game for years. She knew exactly how much to bet, how to manage her bankroll, and she typically broke even or lost only small amounts. She'd developed a sustainable gambling habit that she enjoyed. When Buffalo Gold appeared in her casino, she switched to it immediately, thinking it was just a better version of her favorite game. Over the next 11 months, her losses accelerated dramatically. Player tracking data showed she'd lost approximately $14,000 on Buffalo Gold. She kept telling casino employees that she was just going through a bad luck streak and that Buffalo Gold would turn around for her soon. She never understood that Buffalo Gold was a fundamentally different game with worse math, and her years of experience with the original Buffalo were actually working against her because they created false expectations. Lightning Link High Stakes is manufactured by Aristocrat, and it's part of the Lightning Link series, which has become extremely popular in casinos over the past several years. The high-stakes version was marketed as offering bigger win potential for players willing to bet more money per spin. Slot technicians who service these machines report that Lightning Link High Stakes has a base game RTP around 86% to 88%. What makes this particular version problematic is that the higher denomination doesn't actually improve your odds. You're just losing more money faster. The signature feature of Lightning Link is the hold and rest spin mechanic. When you land 6 or more special symbols, you trigger the feature. You're given 3 rest spins, and if you land additional special symbols during those respins, your spin count resets to 3. This continues until you either fill the screen or your rest spins run out. Technical documentation suggests this feature is programmed to trigger approximately once every 70 to 90 spins. That sounds frequent, and it is compared to some other games. But here's the trap that casino insiders identified. The vast majority of Lightning Link features, probably around 75% to 80%, start with exactly 6 symbols and then fail to land any additional symbols during the 3 respins. The feature ends immediately, and you collect whatever was on those 6 symbols, which typically amounts to somewhere between 10 and 30 times your bet. So the feature triggers frequently enough to keep you engaged, but it rarely pays enough to compensate for your base game losses. You're stuck in a cycle of grinding through terrible base game returns, triggering the feature, collecting a disappointing payout, and then grinding through more base game spins. What makes the high-stakes version particularly dangerous is psychological. Players betting higher denominations and experience more intense emotional responses to wins and losses. The same mathematical disadvantage feels more dramatic when you're betting $5 or $10 per spin instead of $1. Casino employees noticed that players on Lightning Link high stakes would frequently experience what looked like mild panic or stress during losing streaks. But they'd continue playing because the feature triggered often enough to give them hope. The frequent feature triggers created an illusion of action and opportunity that kept players locked in even as they lost significant sums of money. One casino manager described it as the perfect trap: enough action to keep you playing, but not enough value to let you get ahead. One case stood out to multiple casino workers. A man in his 30s started playing Lightning Link high stakes. Betting $5 per spin, he'd trigger the feature relatively often, maybe once every 80 spins on average. Most features would pay between $50 and $150. The problem was that 80 spins at $5 per spin meant he was investing $400 to trigger features that paid around $100. He was losing 3 every time this cycle completed. But the frequency of the features made him feel like he was staying in action. Over approximately 7 months, player tracking data showed he'd wagered roughly $74,000 through Lightning Link high stakes. He'd won back about $61,000. He'd lost $13,000 in 7 months, all while feeling like he was constantly winning because features triggered so frequently. Wheel of Fortune 4D is manufactured by IGT, and it's part of the legendary Wheel of Fortune slot machine franchise. The 4D version features a massive physical wheel mounted above the machine that spins in 3 dimensions, creating a spectacular visual display that attracts attention from across the casino floor. Industry insiders who worked with these machines report that Wheel of Fortune 4D has a base game RTP that can be configured as low as 85%, which is shockingly bad for such a well-known and trusted brand. But the elaborate physical wheel and the Wheel of Fortune name recognition keep players feeding money into it. The main feature is triggered when you land 3 or more bonus symbols. When this happens, the massive physical wheel above the machine begins spinning in 3 dimensions. It's genuinely impressive to watch, and it draws crowds of onlookers who gather to see what the wheel lands on. Programming documentation suggests this bonus triggers approximately once every 160 to 200 spins. The wheel has various segments representing different prizes, from small multipliers up to a progressive jackpot. most segments contain small prizes. Here's what casino employees discovered about the wheel's programming. The wheel is weighted so that it lands on the smallest prizes approximately 70% to 75% of the time. The big prizes and the progressive jackpot occupy much smaller segments that the wheel rarely lands on. But from a player's perspective, watching the wheel spin, all the segments look roughly the same size. There's no obvious indication that you're much more likely to land on the small prizes. The physical wheel creates an illusion of fairness that doesn't match the actual programmed probabilities. So you'll spend $180 in base game spins to trigger the bonus, and then you'll watch this spectacular three-dimensional wheel spin for dramatic effect before it lands on a prize worth $25. You just lost $155, but the theatrical presentation made it feel like you were participating in something significant. Casino workers noticed that Wheel of Fortune 4D was particularly effective at attracting groups of players. When the wheel started spinning, people would gather around to watch, and many of them would then go find their own Wheel of Fortune 4D machine to play. This crowd effect multiplied the machine's effectiveness at extracting money from players. Not only was the person playing losing money on bad odds, but their wheel spin was also serving as advertising to recruit new players who would then lose money on the same bad odds. One incident stayed with multiple casino employees. A bachelor party group came through, and they decided to pool money to play Wheel of Fortune 4D together. They put in $100 each, so $800 total for 8 guys. They took turns spinning, and every time someone triggered the bonus and that big wheel started spinning, the whole group would cheer and celebrate. It looked like they were having an amazing time. After about 4 hours of playing, they'd triggered the bonus wheel maybe 12 times. They got small prizes on most spins, one medium prize, and never hit anything substantial. When they finally cashed out and split whatever was left, each person got back about $45. The group had collectively lost $440, but they talked about what a great time they'd had and how cool the wheel was. The spectacular visual presentation had completely overshadowed the mathematical reality that they'd just donated $440 to the casino. Dragon Spin is manufactured by Bally Technologies, and it features a fantasy dragon theme with elaborate graphics and multiple bonus features. The game is visually impressive and offers several different types of bonuses, which creates an illusion of variety and value. Slot technicians who maintain these machines report that Dragon Spin has a base game RTP ranging from 86% to 88%. What makes this machine particularly problematic is how the multiple bonus features are structured to manipulate player expectations. The game has 4 different bonus features: Raining Wilds, Real Blast, Super Stacks, and Free Spins. Each bonus feature works differently, and having 4 options sounds like great variety. But what casino insiders discovered is that this variety is actually a manipulation tactic. When you trigger a bonus, the game randomly selects which of the 4 bonuses you'll play. Some bonuses are significantly better than others. The Free Spins bonus, for example, typically has the highest payout potential according to industry analysis. The problem is that the game is heavily weighted to give you the worst paying bonuses most of the time. Programming specs suggest that the lower paying bonuses trigger approximately 65% to 70% of the time, while the better bonuses trigger maybe 15% to 20% of the time. This creates a psychological trap. Every time you trigger a bonus, you experience a moment of anticipation, wondering which bonus you'll get. You're hoping for the Free Spins bonus, but you usually get Raining Wilds or Real Blast, which pay much less. But because there's variety, you never feel like you're experiencing the same disappointment twice. Each time feels like a new opportunity, even though mathematically you're just repeatedly getting the bad outcome with different window dressing. Technical documentation suggests the bonus triggers approximately once every 120 to 150 spins, and across all 4 bonus types, the average payout is typically between 25 and 45 times your bet. So you're spending $135 in base game spins to trigger a bonus that pays you $32 on average. Casino employees observed that Dragon Spin was particularly effective at keeping players engaged for extended sessions. The multiple bonus types created an illusion of complexity and strategy that made players feel like they were doing more than just pressing a button and hoping for luck. Players would develop theories about which bonus was best, which bonus triggered most frequently, whether the time of day affected which bonus you'd get. None of it mattered. The game randomly selected which bonus you received based on predetermined weighted probabilities. But the illusion of variety kept players locked in. One regular player, a woman in her 50s, played Dragon Spin almost exclusively for about 13 months. She kept detailed records of which bonus she triggered, what it paid, and she was convinced she'd identified patterns in when the free spins bonus would appear. Player tracking data showed that over those 13 months, she'd wagered approximately $38,000 through Dragon Spin. She'd won back roughly $32,000, which meant she'd lost $6,000 chasing patterns that didn't exist, while believing that the variety of bonuses meant she was playing a more sophisticated game. The Game of Thrones slot machines are manufactured by Aristocrat, and they use the incredibly popular TV show licensed with imagery, music, and video clips from the series. For fans of the show, these machines seem like a perfect combination of entertainment and gambling. But this is a textbook example of how licensing fees destroy player value. Industry insiders who worked with these machines report that Game of Thrones slots have an RTP ranging from 85% to 8%, depending on which version of the game and how the casino has configured it. The reason the RTP is so low is straightforward. Aristocrat has to pay substantial licensing fees to Warner Brothers and HBO to use the Game of Thrones intellectual property. They don't absorb those costs. They pass them directly to players by reducing the RTP. So, when you play Game of Thrones slots, you're essentially paying a premium to see clips from a TV show you've probably already watched while receiving worse odds than you would on a non-branded machine sitting right next to it. The game has multiple bonus features tied to different houses from the show: Stark, Lannister, Targaryen, and Baratheon. When you trigger the free spins bonus, you select which house you want to represent, and each house offers different combinations of free spins and features. This sounds like it gives you strategic control, but casino employees who understood the programming knew better. Just like with other games that offer choices, your selection doesn't actually matter. The outcome is determined by the random number generator before you make your selection. The choosing mechanic is pure psychology designed to make you feel like you have control and to keep you engaged with the theme. In reality, it doesn't matter if you pick Stark or Lannister. The math is the same. Technical documentation suggests the free spins bonus triggers approximately once every 130 to 160 spins, and across all houses, the bonus typically pays between 30 and 60 times your bet. So you're spending $145 in base game spins for a bonus that pays $42. What casino insiders found particularly problematic about Game of Thrones slots is that the strong brand attachment created by the TV show makes players ignore the terrible mathematics. People who would normally pay attention to RTP and volatility would completely overlook these factors because they were excited to play a Game of Thrones themed game. One casino manager recalled a group of friends who came in wearing Game of Thrones t-shirts, clearly huge fans of the show. They spent nearly an entire day playing the Game of Thrones machines, taking photos, sharing clips of the video features on social media, having a great time. Player tracking data later showed that the group had collectively wagered about $6,000 through the machines over the course of the day. They'd won back approximately $4,800. They lost $1,200 in a single day, all while feeling like they were having an amazing Game of Thrones experience. The brand connection had made them completely blind to the fact that they were playing some of the worst odds machines in the entire casino. They paid a 20% premium in reduced RTP just to see clips from a TV show they could watch at home for free. Wonder 4 Tower is manufactured by Aristocrat, and it's an evolution of their Wonder 4 game concept. The machine features 4 separate reel sets displayed simultaneously on the screen, creating a massive amount of visual action. Players can choose to play 1, 2, 3, or all 4 reel sets at once. Slot technicians who service these machines report that Wonder 4 Tower has a base game RTP around 87%, which is already poor. But the real problem with this machine is how the multi-reel setup tricks players into thinking they're getting more value when they're actually just losing money faster. When you play all 4 reel sets simultaneously, you're essentially playing 4 slot machines at once. Your total bet is multiplied by 4, but your RTP doesn't improve at all. You're just putting more money at risk per spin without any increase in your expected return. The psychological impact of this is significant. Players see 4 screens full of spinning reels, and their brain interprets this as more opportunity, more chances to win, more action. But mathematically, you're in the exact same position you'd be in playing a single reel set 4 times sequentially. The only difference is that playing all 4 simultaneously makes you lose money 4 times faster. Casino employees noticed that players almost always activated all 4 reel sets because it seemed like obviously the best strategy. Why would you play just 1 reel set when you could play 4? But that's exactly the trap. You're quadrupling your bet without quadrupling your expected value. The free spins bonus triggers when you land 3 or more scatter symbols on any of the reel sets. When it triggers on 1 reel set, all 4 reel sets enter the bonus mode simultaneously, creating a spectacular visual display with symbols flying all over the screen. Technical documentation suggests the bonus triggers approximately once every 100 to 130 spins per reel set. When you're playing all 4 reel sets, that means you'll see a bonus trigger more frequently, which feels like you're winning more often. But here's what casino insiders discovered. When you trigger the bonus on multiple reel sets simultaneously, the combined payout typically ranges from 30 to 60 times your total bet across all reel sets. So if you're betting $1 per spin across 4 reel sets, that's $4 total per spin. You're spending potentially $520 in total bets to trigger a bonus that pays you $180. You just lost $340, but because all 4 screens were flashing and celebrating, your brain registered it as excitement and winning. One case particularly bothered casino employees. An older man with a limited retirement income started playing Wonder 4 Tower because he thought playing 4 reel sets gave him 4 times the chance to win. He'd bet 25 cents per reel set, so $1 total per spin, thinking he was betting conservatively. What he didn't understand was that he was actually betting 4 times more than if he'd played a single reel set at 25 cents. Over the course of about 8 months, player tracking data showed he'd lost approximately $7,200 on Wonder 4 Tower. He was confused about why he was losing so much because he thought he'd been betting small amounts. He never understood that the for-real setup had quadrupled his effective bet size without giving him any mathematical advantage. Mighty Cash is manufactured by Aristocrat, and it's part of their linked progressive system. The game features a double money symbol mechanic that's designed to create excitement and anticipation, but according to casino insiders, it's actually one of the most mathematically punishing machines on modern casino floors. Slot technicians who maintain these machines report that Mighty Cash has a base game RTP that can be configured as low as 85%, which is absolutely terrible. But what makes Mighty Cash particularly dangerous is how the double money symbol feature and progressive jackpot system work together to create false hope. The signature mechanic involves special symbols with coin values appearing on the reels. When 6 or more of these symbols land, you trigger the hold and respin feature. During this feature, some symbols are marked as double money symbols, which means they pay twice their face value. Industry documentation suggests this feature is programmed to trigger approximately once every 80 to 100 spins, which sounds frequent. But programming analysis reveals that the feature almost always pays poorly. Technical specs indicate that roughly 75% to 80% of features pay less than 40 times your bet. The double money symbols create a psychological manipulation. When you see them during the feature, you experience a spike of excitement thinking your win is about to double. But the reality is that the feature payouts are calculated with the double money symbols already factored in. You're not actually getting double value. You're getting the same poor payout that the feature was always going to deliver, just with different symbols displayed to make it feel more exciting. The progressive jackpot system adds another layer of manipulation. The game has 4 progressive jackpots: mini, minor, major, and grand. To win a jackpot, you need to fill the entire screen with coin symbols during the hold and respin feature. Casino insiders who analyzed the programming report that filling the entire screen is extraordinarily rare. The grand jackpot might hit once every several million spins. The major jackpot hits more frequently, but still rarely enough that most players will never see it. Meanwhile, to fund these progressive jackpots, the base game RTP is reduced significantly. So you're accepting worse base game odds in exchange for a chance at jackpots you'll almost certainly never win. And the frequent triggering of the hold and respin feature creates an illusion that you're close to filling the screen when mathematically you're nowhere near it. Casino employees observed a pattern they called progressive hypnosis with Mighty Cash. Players would become fixated on the progressive jackpot meters displayed above the machine. They'd watch those numbers climb and convince themselves that they had a realistic chance of winning. The frequent hold and respin features would deliver partial screens of coin symbols, which felt like progress toward the full screen needed for the jackpots. But it wasn't progress, it was statistical noise. Getting 6 coins and getting 15 coins both result in you not winning the jackpot. One regular player, a man in his early 60s, played Mighty Cash obsessively for nearly 18 months. He was completely fixated on hitting the grand progressive jackpot, which hovered around $45,000 during most of his play period. He'd trigger the hold and respin feature regularly, and he'd frequently get 8, 10, or 12 coin symbols on the screen. In his mind, he was getting close. He'd tell casino employees that he could feel he was due to fill the screen soon. Player tracking data told a different story. Over 18 months, he'd wagered approximately $86,000 through Mighty Cash. He'd won back roughly $68,000. He'd lost $18,000 chasing a jackpot he never came close to winning. 2 months after he finally gave up and stopped playing, someone else hit the grand jackpot on the same bank of machines. The winner had been playing for about 20 minutes. This reality is particularly cruel, but mathematically predictable. The person who puts in thousands of hours has the same probability per spin as someone playing for the first time. We've reached the #1 machine that casino insiders say you should avoid at all costs. Buffalo Link is manufactured by Aristocrat, and it combines the trusted Buffalo brand with a hold and respin mechanic. On paper, it sounds like it should be a winning combination. In reality, according to industry insiders, it's one of the most effective money extraction machines ever created. Slot technicians who worked on these machines report that Buffalo Link has a base game RTP that can be configured between 85% and 87%. That's horrific for a machine that trades on the beloved Buffalo brand name that players have trusted for years. But the low base game RTP is just the beginning. What makes Buffalo Link the worst machine on this list is how every element of its design works together to create a perfect psychological trap that keeps players feeding money into it even as they lose catastrophically. The main feature is the Buffalo Link bonus, which triggers when you land 6 or more gold coin symbols. When it triggers, you're given 3 respins, and landing additional coins resets your respin count. The feature continues until you either fill the screen or run out of respins. Industry documentation suggests this feature is programmed to trigger approximately once every 60 to 75 spins. That's very frequent compared to most other machines. Casino employees explain that this frequent trigger rate is deliberately designed to create constant engagement. You're never more than 70 spins away from the next feature, which means you're always just around the corner from the next hit of excitement. This keeps you locked in, constantly chasing the next feature trigger. But here's the devastating part that insiders discovered. Programming analysis indicates that approximately 80% to 85% of Buffalo Link features start with exactly 6 coins and then fail to land any additional coins during the 3 respins. The feature ends immediately, and you collect whatever those 6 coins were worth. Technical specs suggest these minimal features typically pay between 8 and 25 times your bet. So you're spending potentially $68 in base game spins to trigger a feature that pays you $15. You just lost $53, but the feature triggered, so your brain registers it as action and opportunity rather than the loss it actually is. Every once in a while, maybe 1 in every 25 or 30 features, you'll land additional coins during your respins. The feature extends, your excitement builds, and you end up with a better payout. These extended features might pay 60, 80, or even 100 times your bet. And very rarely, perhaps once in every 200 or 300 features, you'll experience what players call a full board, where you fill most or all of the screen with coins. These rare features can pay several hundred or even over 1,000 times your bet. These rare big hits are what casino insiders call the anchor events. They create a powerful emotional memory that keeps players coming back. You remember that one time you hit a full board and won $12,200. That memory becomes an anchor that justifies all future play sessions. But what you don't remember or don't properly account for are the 200 disappointing features you triggered before and after that big hit. Mathematically, those 200 small features cost you far more than that one big feature paid back. But human psychology doesn't work mathematically. We remember the peaks and forget the valleys. What makes Buffalo Link particularly insidious is how it combines multiple manipulation techniques into a single machine. The trusted Buffalo brand makes you feel safe. The frequent feature triggers create constant engagement. The occasional extended features provide hope. The rare full boards create powerful emotional anchors. And the terrible base game RTP hidden underneath all of this systematically drains your bankroll. Casino employees who work the floor reported that Buffalo Link created a particular type of player behavior they called the grind lock. Players would sit at Buffalo Link machines for 6, 8, sometimes 10 or more hours at a time, barely moving, completely absorbed in the rhythm of base game spins and frequent feature triggers. These players weren't even really gambling anymore in any traditional sense. They were locked into a repetitive cycle that provided just enough intermittent reinforcement to keep them engaged, while systematically transferring their money to the casino. One case haunted multiple casino workers who independently mentioned it. A woman in her late 40s started playing Buffalo Link when it first appeared in the casino. She'd previously been a casual gambler who played various games for a couple hours on weekends. But Buffalo Link changed her pattern completely. Within 2 months, she was coming to the casino 4 to 5 days per week, playing Buffalo Link, exclusively for 6 to 8-hour sessions. Casino employees watched her obvious descent into problem gambling behavior. She stopped playing any other machines. She rarely took breaks. She seemed to be in a trance-like state during play, mechanically pressing the button over and over, occasionally showing a flicker of excitement when the Buffalo Link feature triggered. Player tracking data told the brutal mathematical story. Over the course of 11 months, she'd wagered approximately $127,000 through Buffalo Link. She'd won back roughly $183,000. She'd lost $24,000 in less than a year, and based on her player card history, she'd almost certainly never lost anywhere near that amount in her previous years of casual gambling. Multiple casino employees tried to gently suggest she might want to take a break or play different games. She'd always smile and say she was fine, that she was due for a big hit soon, that Buffalo Link was her game. The machine had successfully created what behavioral psychologists would recognize as a powerful addiction loop. The frequent features provided constant reinforcement. The occasional bigger wins provided hope and justified continued play. The trusted Buffalo brand made it feel safe and familiar. And the woman's brain chemistry was responding exactly as the machine's designers had intended. Several employees stated they felt genuine guilt watching players lose substantial sums on Buffalo Link because they understood exactly how the machine was programmed to create these behavioral patterns. They could see the psychological manipulation happening in real time. One slot technician who worked on Buffalo Link machines for over 2 years stated in an industry report that Buffalo Link represented a concerning evolution in slot machine design. The machine had been optimized not just to make money for the casino, which is expected, but to maximize player engagement time while minimizing player awareness of losses. The frequent feature triggers meant players could rationalize their losses as just being between features. They were always about to trigger the next feature, always about to hit the next win. The machine never gave them a clear moment to step back and recognize the cumulative damage to their bankroll. This slot technician stated they eventually requested to stop working on Buffalo Link machines because the psychological discomfort of maintaining machines they knew were so effectively exploiting human psychology became too much to handle. So there you have it, 12 slot machines that casino insiders specifically warn against, based on their years of experience watching players lose money on them. What all of these machines have in common is that they use sophisticated psychological techniques to mask poor mathematical odds. They use trusted brand names, frequent bonus triggers, spectacular visual effects, illusions of choice and control, and intermittent reinforcement schedules to keep players engaged even as they lose money steadily over time. The most important thing to understand is this: every single slot machine in every casino is programmed with a house edge. The casino always has a mathematical advantage over time. That's not a secret. That's the fundamental nature of casino gambling. But not all machines are created equal. Some machines have worse odds than others. Some machines use more aggressive psychological manipulation techniques than others. And some machines, like the 12 we've covered in this video, represent the worst combination of bad odds and sophisticated psychological manipulation. If you're going to gamble on slot machines, and that's a personal choice only you can make, at least go into it with your eyes open. Understand that the colorful graphics, exciting sounds, and frequent features are all carefully designed to distract you from the mathematical reality that you're going to lose money over time. Set strict loss limits before you start playing and stick to them no matter what. Never chase losses. Never convince yourself you're due for a win. Never fall into the trap of thinking you can identify patterns or beat the system. The machines are programmed by mathematicians and psychologists working together to maximize the casino's profit while maximizing your engagement time. You're not going to outsmart them. You're not going to beat them with a system or a strategy. The only winning move, according to every casino insider who came forward with this information, is to understand what you're actually participating in. You're paying money for entertainment and for the small chance of a lucky win. If you can accept that and gamble responsibly within your means, that's your choice. But don't fool yourself into thinking you're doing anything other than slowly transferring your money to the casino in exchange for lights, sounds, and the occasional dopamine hit. And definitely don't play these 12 machines, because they're the most efficient money extraction devices currently on casino floors. Before you go, let me know in the comments. Have you played any of these 12 machines? Did you win or lose? And what's your experience been with slot machines in general? And if you found this information valuable, make sure to subscribe, because we're going to continue exposing the tactics casinos use to separate you from your money. The industry doesn't want this information getting out, but players deserve to know what they're actually up against.